So, as I was saying earlier on, Gail, that there's a big difference between management and leadership in football. Sugar.
Yeah, please. White sugar.
So, um,
Brown sugar is it?
is that brown?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
No, I'm looking for white sugar, please.
oh, you don't do.
No.
Hey, you are killing yourself.
There's a funny
White
aftertaste.
white sugar, brown sugar, my man.
Thank you.
How many?
This is just enough.
Two.
Yeah.
Don't do it for the camera.
No.
So you see, like when we talk about, in my opinion, when we talk about like leadership, let's take a Guardiola, Pep Guardiola, for instance. Pep Guardiola is a good manager, not a good leader per se, because um, there's been a lot of people that he rubbed off the wrong way. You know, I can mention quite a few, but there's no need for that. I think people can basically look them up.
Samuel Eto'o. Ronaldinho.
But then
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
the list goes on.
Yaya Toure.
Yaya Toure is a notable one. But I think what we can basically like commend him on is his management, right? Because he's able to get success from his players. But if you're asking me the greatest leader in football, I wouldn't even put him. In fact, even in sports, you know, when you talk about people like Phil Jackson, you know,
Yeah.
Phil Jackson basically is the guy that basically allowed Dennis Rodman to be himself as long as he was able to produce, you know. Um, Unfortunately for Mr. Pep, it does not allow people to be themselves. So me and my brother were talking about how Manchester City plays, right? And I basically said like their style of football is very unique in the sense that you win and you can see them basically, but um, it's so curated in a certain way where it feels like so programmed that when you take those players outside that system, then they aren't able to produce the same when they play for other teams. I don't know. We just came out of a World Cup tournament. Like, I don't know if there was any Manchester City player that basically stood out in this tournament. I can tell you now for free that there isn't. But that goes to show that, like some players, and I made reference to Raheem Sterling earlier on, him at Chelsea and him playing for Manchester City and him playing for England, it's totally different players, but it's one player. So his management style, in terms of the system that he implements, it works, right? But outside of that, then like when you talk about leadership, like you know, like people like Carlo Ancelotti and like the influence they've had on players, people always speak about players. Actually, always speak about Carlo Ancelotti um, from the perspective of his human element rather than his coaching or his management style. They like his human element.
Like
that
what,
he's
what were they referring to at that point?
like some of them even call him a father figure. He's able to like like to mold players in the right way, shape them in the right way, and support them. And like he's not the person that dictates how things should be done, but he is there to support. He plays a supporting role. He makes sure that the environment and the atmosphere is good for everyone to succeed. And by so doing, it doesn't negate his success. He still succeeds. He's still won twice as much or as equally as a Pep Guardiola, whose management style is very rigid, very stringent, and very pragmatic.
But they regard Pep as the one as the greatest of all time, maybe after Alex Ferguson, Sir Alex Ferguson.
A tactician, I would say, not after. I think he's better than Alex Ferguson, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I guess
Alex Ferguson's football was hoof and hope, like just like shit housery. Like yes, like be a dog on the pitch. Like I want you to show more, like
Paul
your Roy
Scholes,
Keanes. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no, Paul Scholes is a baller. I can't speak bad about Paul Scholes.
No,
He's a baller.
I mean, like, as in, like, he was hardcore on the ball. Like, he was
Yes.
not a person that's doing ballet on the ball.
Exactly.
He was like meaning business. But like, I think people are giving props to Sir Alex Ferguson, obviously because of the third boy. Like,
Because of his dominance
yeah.
in England. But I also do believe that there's nuances to his success as well. We can talk about Pep Guardiola coming in with a certain style of play, a defined style of play, and still dominating. He's actually dominating. And if we're being honest, I think football at that point in time wasn't as competitive as it is right now. If Alex Ferguson could come back and coach now, they would mop the floor with him.
Yeah, but like it's also the conversations that we always have about you can't compare different eras, different decades. You know, it's difficult to do that.
Yeah, but because his methods do not work in this generation.
Yeah.
Like players have become so soft, right? So gentle, and now we basically talking about imperatives like mental health. So you have to incorporate that. Like if you look at the incident between the Fergie, say Alex Ferguson and David
And
Beckham.
David Beckham, yeah.
I mean, like in today's world, like
They'll have Alex
they would
Ferguson's head on the
castigate
chopping
him.
block.
Yeah, they would castigate him.
But
like,
I mean, like people evolve, right? Because
Yes.
I mean, when like who's one of the oldest guys in the thing? It's what's his name? The guy that Mourinho came up under. The coach that he actually served as a. Was it not
Van
Gaal?
Gaal,
Was
yeah.
it Van Gaal? Like I mean, he's been around for some time, and at the time that he stepped in as a young boy, things had changed. And I
Yeah.
guess same with Mourinho. I mean, you know, same with Pep as well. I mean, at the time Pep stepped into the bigger team, Ronaldinho was still playing.
Yeah.
The game has changed completely from that time.
Without even going that far back, right? So, who has, say, Alex Ferguson produced as a coach? Because I can tell you about 3 or 4 that Pep Guardiola has produced. The people that have come and they've basically developed under his mentorship. Either he offered them a job of being an assistant. We've seen Mikel Arteta, even though he's a glorified failure because he's not won anything. Arsenal right now were like top of the league for 93% of their season, and they've basically like bottled it. But yeah, Mikel Arteta came under him, but you can see his imprint. You can see that there's a Pep Guardiola in the way that he plays. Xavi, he's just won the La Liga with Barcelona. Eric Ten Hag worked with Pep Guardiola. I mean, I've counted 3. Can you basically name anyone that has come under the say Alex Ferguson development or mentorship or whatever the case, successorship?
So, okay, memory may count against me, yeah? But Paul Scholes is one of the guys.
Paul Scholes is a pundit. He talks about football. He criticizes people for not performing. He's not coaching. Gary Neville did coach. I can give you one. Gary Neville coached at Sevilla, Valencia. Sorry, my bad. Valencia.
Remember, Paul
He was
Scholes,
terrible.
before becoming a pundit, what was he doing?
What was he doing? I
Before
don't
he
know.
actually stepped out of before he stepped back into football. Remember, he retired at one point.
Yes.
Then he came back. Before he came back, what did he do?
Drinking beer?
No. He was one of the guys that was responsible for the academy.
For the academy.
Yes.
Manchester United's academy is not known for anything. They've barely produced anyone out of that academy.
They've barely produced, or to your knowledge.
They've barely produced, like, there's no one at the superstar level that has been produced by the Manchester United Academy.
When you're referring to superstar, you're referring to a comparison of...
In recent times, of course, I'm not talking about the time of your Beckhams and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in recent times. The only... Okay, Marcus Rashford, but he did not coach Rashford from the academy. He did not... I don't know who he coached under the academy.
You must also remember that when you're talking
Okay,
about...
but still, be that as it may, we are talking about someone that has operated at a level lower, which is the academy. And I've mentioned people that are basically competing, winning at a premier level. So I want you to say Alex Ferguson has produced. This is why I'm saying that what Pep Guardiola has done for the game, right? He's a student of Johan Cruyff, right? So like the people that come from that school, you can identify because they play a certain way, a certain brand of football. And this is what Pep Guardiola has brought into the football in today, right? Let's take leadership away. Leadership, he's questionable when it comes to leadership because he basically forces people to do things the way that he wants. And if you don't do things the way that he wants, he will freeze you out. And I do not approve of that. It doesn't speak to leadership at all. And I even made an example of Phil Jackson. People when they talk about like the highest levels of coaching and managing and leading, they speak about Phil Jackson because of how he handles big personalities. Pep Guardiola is not very good with handling big personalities, right?
Yeah.
So, but what we can speak on is his ability to transform average mediocre players into superstars. And he's been able to do that. Whereas with Alex Ferguson, he had a winning mentality and he instilled a winning mentality in players. Manchester United wasn't at all good on the eye. You couldn't watch Manchester United and feel like, wow. And yet they were dominating the English Premier League. But you couldn't watch them and say, oh, wow, United plays a certain brand of football. But Manchester City is an epitome of that. So all credit to who? To Pep Guardiola. Now tell me about, say Alex Ferguson. Say Alex Ferguson. Yes, I will give to you the winning mentality, but that's as far as it goes, my brother. Fergie, no, 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 no. I would even say Wenger had like a different style, a different brand of style, because I used to enjoy watching Arsenal when they were still something.
But
There's
why,
nothing left in them now.
why would you then think that the dominance had lasted so long at Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson's helm?
He was intimidating people. I will state this categorically.
Alex Ferguson, as you were saying about Carlo Ancelotti, had that father figure, had that
I
mentorship.
put Carlo Ancelotti ahead of Ferguson.
Even if you do put him ahead of Ferguson, it's fine. Extended beyond what anyone else has done before or after.
The only person that I would argue for against Guardiola, in my opinion, is a Mourinho,
The special one.
the special one. For me, the reason why I would argue for a Mourinho is because Mourinho has done it
Every level.
at every level. Like he's basically taken clubs that were not built to win anything of
Yeah.
that significance, and he's
Yeah.
made them winners. I mean, for crying out so loud, Jose Mourinho won the Champions League with FC Porto with, I don't mean to say this as a bad thing, with Benny McCarthy, our own South African Benny McCarthy. And this is
props
not
to Benny McCarthy.
props to you, Benny.
Yeah.
This is not disrespect to you, but this is just to show that other people had like what was considered as the top strikers, and yet Mourinho won it with FC Porto. And then on top of that, he went to Inter Milan, right? Inter Milan were not in a position of winning a European championship. And I don't know if they had won it even in their history, but Jose Mourinho won it playing Eto'o as number 7.
Talking about that, with coming back to Alex Ferguson and Manchester United, when Manchester United were defeated by FC Porto by the hands of Benny McCarthy scoring the winning goals, Alex Ferguson, the then captain, walked into the dressing room to congratulate the team. It was not the victory of the Champions League, it was not the final, but because it was such a big team, it was a big deal. And they knocked them out. Alex Ferguson came in. Like, that's winning. There's a certain way in which you conduct
Respect.
yourself. Exactly. Yes, at the end of the day, this is a competition. We are fighting for who's the greatest, who's the best, and all that type of things. But then there's also the gentleman aspect that comes in. There's also sportsmanship that comes in, and
Yes.
you have to take losses as good as you take the wins.
No wins, yeah.
And
So
you
let
have
me-
to go back to the drawing board and fix those things. But putting that aside, eat humble pie and acknowledge your defeats and
Let's put this into perspective,
put this
right?
into perspective.
If you're an owner of a club, right?
Yeah.
You want to build like a powerhouse,
Yeah.
right? You've got 3 candidates
Yeah.
who've just applied for this coaching role.
Yeah.
You've got a Jose Mourinho, you've got a Pep Guardiola, you've
Yeah.
got an Alex Ferguson.
Yes. Who am I taking?
Who are you hiring for your project?
There's no doubt about it. The special one.
Oh, you're taking Mourinho.
I'm taking the special one all the
Why?
way. I think he embodies the aspect of Sir Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola. He's a tactician on his own. He has that element of discipline. He has a different, a unique way of doing things. How many times people actually got onto the field and was like, yes, we've done training before on the high levels, but somehow it was not the same as what was happening when we were training under Mourinho.
Yeah.
People also speak about the energy, the impact that he had.
The
just walking
charisma.
to the dressing room.
So okay, I've got a question for you, right?
Yeah.
So like Mourinho has been successful using those principles or those methods, right? However, he has in recent times um, he has basically like struggled, you know, like motivating players the same way that he used to it back in the days. Because remember, like back in the days, Mourinho would basically say something about you, hoping that
It
it
would
would
stick.
invoke a
Yeah.
reaction from you. And like when he says something negative about you, you'd go basically and prove him wrong on the football pitch. But in today's world, like he says something about someone, it breaks them. It broke Paul Pogba. It broke Marcus Rashford, you know, amongst a host of other players that he basically like broke through his way of or his ways of trying to get a certain reaction. The intention is good, but the deliverance or the delivery is not. So a lot of people feel that Mourinho's methods
They're outdated.
are outdated. They don't work in today's world based on how footballers are built today.
And it could be fair. It could
Whereas
be.
Pep Guardiola, on the other hand, he is very rigid, but somehow he does get a reaction from players until he runs them to the
I
ground.
don't want to take about Pep Guardiola. I don't want to talk about Pep Guardiola. Let me talk about because that's a conversation that will steer me down the wrong road. So I can agree with people because we are not the same that as we were yesterday.
Yeah.
So you have to adapt. You have to adjust to change. We are living in an ever-changing environment, and if you don't change, I'm not saying you change your morals and principles and values, you know. There's certain things it's just like not, it's not up for the debate. But there's other things that you have to analyze the game. You have to understand who you're dealing with. You have to look at the different personalities, the different backgrounds, because our backgrounds could be, we could both be strong personalities, but having different backgrounds.
But then the whole thing about Mourinho is he's won everywhere he's gone, right?
Yes.
And like the only place where he hasn't won is with Tottenham. I don't know anyone that has ever gone there and won anything anyway. So we can excuse that. But he won like a European championship with Roma, and Roma had been like in disarray for like years and years and years. So it wasn't actually the same team that we've known it to be, same as AC Milan. Remember, AC Milan has had to go through that process of actually just not being the same anymore as the powerhouse that we've known it to be as we were growing up.
Look at when he went to Manchester United, and people also
He won there as well, though.
yeah, he won some things, but people wanted him to win the bigger things. And you don't understand that sometimes even getting to number 4 or even getting to number 2 is a massive step.
So okay, I agree with you. So there's also like let me balance this conversations. There's also people that say, what would Pep Guardiola do with some of the squads that Mourinho has coached and won something with?
He would get rid of all of some of the players.
So in his first season at Manchester City, he came in, he failed to win. Guess what he did? He signed new players.
Yeah, and he got rid of people like Yaya Toure.
And he got rid of certain players that don't basically perform according to how he wants players to perform. So I guess we'll never know. So in closing, let's go to a conclusion, right? So in closing, Mengel, you are basically saying that in your books, in your own learned opinion
Unlearned.
or unlearned opinion, Mourinho
is the true special one.
is the greatest manager of all time.